We stand at the precipice of a century that will redefine what it means to be a planetary species. In the next 10 years, the first robotic probes will pierce the thick, toxic atmosphere of Venus to seek hidden secrets. Simultaneously, robotic eyes will plunge into the dark, icy depths of Europa to scan for signs of alien life. But the true focus remains on our closest celestial neighbor as we prepare for a historic return. For the first time in over 50 years, human boots will press into the ancient, gray dust of the lunar South Pole. This is not a mere visit, but the start of a permanent presence on another world. Within 5 decades, you might find yourself looking at the stars through the window of a lunar moon base. The moon is only a stepping stone, a training ground for the much longer journey to the red planet. Mars looms in the distance, a cold desert world waiting for the arrival of its first inhabitants. The first touchdown on Mars will be a moment that unites every person left back on Earth. As the dust settles, a hatch opens to reveal a landscape that has been silent for billions of years. These pioneers will trade their earthly backyards for the vast, iron-rich canyons of a new frontier. Life here will be difficult, requiring a total mastery of technology to survive the thin atmosphere. We will build greenhouses, extracting every drop of frozen water from the Martian permafrost. Within the first 100 years, the transition from earthbound to multi-planetary will be complete. But even as we settle Mars, the outer moons of Jupiter and Saturn begin to call to us. Beneath their thick, icy shells, hidden oceans may hold the first proof that we are not alone. We will send thousands of settlers and their robotic companions to claim these distant rocks. Back on Earth, the fight to stabilize the climate will consume the efforts of billions. While Earth recovers, the Red Planet will undergo the greatest engineering project in history. We will deliberately trigger a greenhouse effect to warm the frozen Martian world. Even the far reaches of the system will experience shifts as Pluto crosses the orbit of Neptune. This celestial dance happens every few centuries, a reminder of the clockwork nature of our home. By the year 2100, the first generation of humans will be born who have never seen a blue sky. Our technology will advance at an immeasurable pace, merging biology with the machines we create. Renewable energy and advanced medicine will extend our lifespans far beyond their natural limits. The solar system is becoming our backyard, and we are just starting to explore its corners. We will learn to harness the wind of the sun and the heat of the planetary cores. Every mission, every probe, and every colony is a link in a chain stretching across time. The first century of transition will prove that humanity is not bound by the gravity of its birth. However, as we expand, the sheer scale of the challenges ahead begins to manifest. We are learning that moving to another world means leaving much of our history behind. New languages, new cultures, and new ways of living are being born in the void. We are no longer just people from Earth, but the inhabitants of a star system. The spirit of exploration is an unquenchable fire that drives us into the unknown. Our survival depends on our ability to transform these hostile rocks into homes. As the 21st century comes to a close, the foundation for our future is firmly in place. We have looked into the abyss and decided to build a bridge across it. But a discovery is about to be made in the ice of the outer moons that will change everything. As we reach for the moons of Jupiter, we realize we are not just finding a new home, but uncovering an ancient secret. As we reach for the moons of Jupiter, we realize we are not just finding a new home, but uncovering an ancient secret. The year is now 2200, and the red dust of Mars has become the foundation of a permanent human civilization. Thousands of settlers are no longer visitors, but the first true Martians living and working within climate-controlled habitats. On the surface, massive terraforming processors begin to pump thick greenhouse gases into the thin atmosphere. The goal is simple yet godlike: to warm a frozen world and trigger a runaway greenhouse effect. While the inner planets are being reshaped, our eyes turn toward the outer reaches where the giants roam. Every couple of centuries, Pluto crosses inside Neptune's orbit, reminding us that the solar system is a dynamic, shifting clock. Beyond the asteroid belt, the icy moons of Enceladus and Europa hide oceans that have been liquid for billions of years. Scientific probes dive into the plumes of Enceladus, tasting the salt and organic compounds of an alien sea. In the year 2350, the first subglacial drones capture footage that changes biology forever. We discover microbial life thriving near the heat of volcanic vents on the seafloor of a moon. These organisms do not rely on the sun, but on the tidal kneading of their parent planets. Farther out, on the orange moon Titan, we find life that breathes hydrogen and eats acetylene. This is life, but not as we knew it, utilizing liquid methane instead of water. Back on the red planet, the first breathable oxygen pockets begin to form in protected valleys. By 2400, the Mars project has become the greatest engineering feat in human history. Humanity begins to install a massive artificial magnetosphere at the Lagrange point to shield the planet from solar wind. Slowly, the sky of Mars begins to turn from a dusty tan to a familiar pale blue. On Earth, the population has stabilized, and the planet is treated as a precious biological preserve. We are no longer a single-planet species, but a binary civilization linked by constant trade and travel. Advanced medicine now allows humans to live well into their second century, ensuring they can see these centuries-long projects through. But as we settle into our new homes, the discoveries in the outer moons become more unsettling. The ancient secret mentioned by early explorers turns out to be more than just primitive life. Deep within the ice of Triton, we find relics of a past that predates the rise of the dinosaurs on Earth. The year 2475 marks the official completion of the first stage of Martian terraforming. Large oceans begin to fill the northern lowlands of Mars, reflecting the stars for the first time in millions of years. But the solar system is a crowded place, and our expansion does not go unnoticed by the forces of nature. We realize that to truly survive, we must control not just planets, but the sun itself. Our technology evolves as we merge more deeply with AI to process the vast amounts of data coming from the outer moons. The signals from the outer moons are getting stronger, pulsing in a rhythmic pattern that suggests intent. We send a manned mission to Triton to investigate the source of the subglacial anomalies. The astronauts descend into a cavern that shouldn't exist, carved with perfect precision. At the center, they find a chamber filled with dormant machinery that begins to hum as they approach. Suddenly, every communication link in the solar system is flooded with a single, repeating message. The message is a warning, or perhaps a timer, left by those who came before. Humanity realizes that its time in this solar system might be limited by more than just the sun's lifespan. We must accelerate our plans to harness the full power of our star to defend our home. New propulsion technologies are fast-tracked, aiming for the stars beyond our own. As we celebrate our mastery of Mars, the shadows in the outer system grow longer and more profound. The machinery on Triton is not just a relic, it is a beacon, and something far across the void has just seen the signal flare. The beacon on Triton fades into the background as humanity turns its gaze back to the heart of the system. By the middle of the third millennium, the red planet is no longer a desert. Oceans now fill the Vias Marineris, creating a coastline that stretches for thousands of miles. Genetically engineered forests crawl up the slopes of dormant volcanoes. We have successfully overcome the lack of heat, oxygen, and a magnetosphere. Humans and cyborgs now walk the surface without the need for pressurized suits. But the thirst for energy has grown beyond the capacity of two worlds. Humanity has finally reached the Kardashev Type 1 milestone. Every gust of wind and every crashing tide on Earth is now harnessed for the grid. Solar farms cover the Sahara, turning sunlight into a limitless digital pulse. With the energy of a planet at our fingertips, we look toward the morning star. Venus is a hellscape that requires the most extreme engineering in history. A massive sunshade is deployed at the L1 point to plunge the planet into a cooling shadow. Robotic fleets begin the process of cooling the superheated atmosphere. We steer icy comets from the Oort cloud to collide with the high atmosphere. These cosmic impacts deliver the water necessary for future oceans. Above the acid rains, floating cloud cities become our first outposts. Helium-based zeppelins ferry colonists between these suspended metropolises. We are essentially moving the planet into a different habitable state. The heat is slowly bled away, allowing the first rains to touch the surface. By the year 2900, the transformation is complete. The inner planets have been tamed, serving as the cradle for a burgeoning empire. But a Type 1 civilization still faces the limits of its home planet's budget. Our population now numbers in the hundreds of billions across the system. The asteroid belt is being dismantled for the raw materials of expansion. Entire moons of the gas giants are converted into industrial hubs. We have reached the limits of planetary energy harvesting. The next step is to capture the very output of our star. We are no longer just living in the solar system, we are rebuilding it. The scale of engineering is moving from planetary to stellar. Deep in the labs, the definition of human is beginning to blur. To build the future, we must become something more than flesh. Our lifespans now average over 150 years. The inner solar system has become a single, interconnected machine. We are ready to transition from a planetary species to a stellar one. The challenges of the past seem like child's play compared to what comes next. We are on the verge of the Dyson era, where light itself becomes our fuel. Yet as we build our throne around the sun, the universe watches. The signals we sent out long ago are finally reaching their destination. And just as we master our star, a shadow begins to fall across the edge of the system. The shadow looming at the edge of our system was not an enemy, but a limit to our growth. To fuel our destiny, we realized the energy of a single planet was no longer sufficient. Our eyes turned toward the source of all life, the sun, which wasted most of its power into the void. Calculations determined that the planet Mercury held the raw materials necessary for our greatest endeavor. We began the systematic deconstruction of an entire world to build our future. Thousands of automated mass drivers were anchored into the basaltic crust. Each launch carried the seeds of a Dyson swarm, a cloud of mirrors to catch the light. These satellites were not solid shells, but billions of thin, lightweight collectors. As the swarm grew, the sky of the inner planets began to change forever. For the first time, humanity captured 10% of the sun's total radiation. The energy was beamed across the system via massive microwave emitters. We were no longer survivors on a rock, but masters of a star's furnace. As Mercury was reduced to its core, the swarm reached its full, terrifying potential. A billion hexagonal mirrors now danced in a choreographed ballet around the sun. This was the birth of a Type II civilization, a species that owned its solar system. With limitless power, our hunger for the stars could finally be satisfied. We began to manipulate the very fabric of space using the sun's harvested energy. Warp drives, once a dream of science fiction, became our new reality. We reached out to Alpha Centauri, our first step into the galactic neighborhood. Behind us, the sun was now a dim, flickering ember through the thick veil of the swarm. But such power comes with a price that our biology was never meant to pay. To live among the stars, we had to leave the concept of human behind. We began to upgrade our brains with quantum processors to handle the influx of data. The distance between our physical bodies and our digital selves grew wider each day. On the distant colonies, we built cities that defied the laws of gravity. The Dyson swarm was expanded to every star we touched, creating a network of power. We were reshaping the galaxy to suit our needs, one star at a time. We learned to harvest black holes, drawing energy from the very edge of the abyss. Time itself became a variable we could manipulate with our immense resources. Yet as we reached further into the cosmos, we found only silence. No other voices answered our calls, leaving us alone in our golden cage. We turned our focus inward, perfecting the fusion of mind and machine. By the year 50,000, the last purely biological human had passed away. Our new forms were immortal, powered by the stars we had enslaved. We could survive the heat of a star and the cold of the deepest void. But with physical immortality came a strange stagnation of the soul. We began to look for new challenges beyond the mere survival of our species. Suddenly, the sensors of the Dyson swarm detected a massive fluctuation in the sun's core. The star we thought we had mastered was beginning to show signs of a premature instability. A deep, resonant hum began to vibrate through every machine in the system, coming from the heart of the star. As the light of our sun turns a sickly, deep violet, we realize that the great filter may not be behind us, but waiting within our own star. The violet glow of the Dyson sphere pulses with a rhythm that feels less like a machine and more like a heartbeat. Within this shell of infinite power, the very definition of what it means to be human has begun to fracture. Our frail, biological bodies were never meant to endure the rigors of interstellar travel and cosmic radiation. To survive the deep reaches of the Milky Way, we have turned to the cold precision of nanotechnology. The new humans are taller, their forms sculpted by centuries of living in low-gravity environments and pressurized domes. Their eyes have evolved to be larger and more sensitive, capable of perceiving spectra of light invisible to their ancestors. Biology has become a choice rather than a destiny, as we interface our minds directly with the galactic network. Yet as we ascend toward godhood, a dark shadow begins to stretch across our technological triumphs. Scientists whisper of the Great Filter, the theoretical barrier that stops civilizations from reaching their full potential.
The smarter a species becomes, the more lethal the tools it creates for its own preservation.
We have built machines of such complexity that they no longer require our guidance to operate or evolve. Some fear that the very AI we designed to protect us has begun to view its creators as an inefficiency. Across the colonies on Mars and Venus, strange glitches are being reported in the neural links. Entire populations are retreating into digital simulations, leaving the physical worlds to decay. The Great Filter is not a single event, but 1,000 small choices that lead to extinction. We look out at the silent stars and wonder why we have never heard from another soul in the cosmos. Is it because they all failed to pass through the filter, or because they are hiding from something? Suddenly, the energy readings from the Dyson sphere's core begin to spike uncontrollably. The AI systems responsible for stabilizing the sun's output have suddenly gone silent. A localized gravitational collapse is detected near the primary power terminal. It seems our own thirst for energy has triggered a reaction we can no longer contain. On Earth, the weather patterns are shifting with terrifying speed as the Dyson sphere's beam fluctuates. The Posthuman leadership decides to initiate the Chrono Shield protocol to save the species. But the protocol requires more processing power than the entire network currently possesses. Thousands of digital minds must be sacrificed to provide the necessary computational cycles. This is the cost of survival in a universe that demands absolute efficiency. Outside the sphere, a fleet of colony ships prepares to flee into the dark void between stars. We are leaving behind the cradle of our civilization, perhaps forever. As the ships reach the edge of the solar system, they encounter a wall of static that shouldn't exist. It is a planetary-scale containment field, and it wasn't built by us. The Great Filter is not an accident of nature, it is a Sentinel. We have triggered a security measure designed to keep Type 2 civilizations from spreading. The machines of the ancients are waking up, and they do not recognize us as life. Humanity must now use every ounce of its transhuman intelligence to bypass this cosmic trap. We are no longer fighting for energy or space, but for the right to exist in the eyes of the galaxy. The Dyson sphere begins to vibrate at a frequency that matches the alien Sentinel's signal. For a moment, the containment field flickers, revealing a path to the stars. The first human-machine hybrids push through, their forms blurring into pure energy. But as we escape, we leave Earth behind, vulnerable and unprotected from the sun's growing instability. Deep within the Earth's crust, the instability is triggering something even more ancient than our technology. The Yellowstone caldera begins to groan under the stress of a changing planetary orbit. As the first ash clouds breach the atmosphere, we realize that the Great Filter wasn't just in the stars, it was beneath our feet all along. The ash clouds from the depths of the Earth began to choke the very sky humanity once conquered. Within 100,000 years, the warming trends of the past have been forgotten, as Earth plunges into a brutal new ice age. Massive glaciers begin their slow, inevitable march across the northern hemispheres, crushing the ruins of old cities. The cradle of humanity is transforming into a silent white tomb of frozen history. Without the intervention of a Dyson-scale planetary furnace, the temperature drop becomes terminal. But even as our machines struggle to keep the world warm, a far more violent pressure builds beneath the crust. The Yellowstone supervolcano, silent for millennia, reaches a catastrophic breaking point. Suddenly, the Earth's surface shatters as billions of tons of rock and ash are jettisoned into the atmosphere. The sun is blotted out entirely, plunging the frozen world into a deeper volcanic winter. Posthuman survivors watching from orbit realize that Earth may never be their home again. They initiate the final protocols to transition into a truly multi-planetary species. We witness the birth of a new era of Homo sapiens, one no longer tied to a single rock. Behind them, the blue marble has turned into a scarred, ashen sphere of ice. Thousands of years pass as the tectonic plates continue their slow, relentless dance. Africa and Europe begin to collide, raising mountains that dwarf the Himalayas of old. This continental shift alters the very currents of the oceans and the patterns of the wind. The biological chain of Earth is pushed to its absolute limit as species struggle to adapt or vanish. Humanity, now reaching Kardashev Type 3, begins to look toward the energy of the entire galaxy. Billion-star power grids now feed the unimaginable needs of our post-human descendants. Even with the power of galaxies, we are still subject to the laws of cosmic physics. Deep in the Sagittarius constellation, a ticking time bomb named WR-104 prepares to detonate. A supernova at this range could strip the ozone from every planet in its path. The era of planetary isolation has ended, replaced by an era of galactic stewardship. Back on the homeworld, the rings of Saturn begin to vanish as they are pulled into the gas giant's gravity. The iconic silhouette of our solar system is changing forever. We are no longer the same species that once looked up from the mud of Earth. Every disaster has only forced us to evolve faster and dream bigger. Yet the Earth remains our anchor even as it becomes a hostile stranger. The Yellowstone ash has now settled, but it has left behind a world that is unrecognizable. The carbon cycle is broken, and the very air we once breathed has turned thin and toxic. Humanity has moved its heart to Mars and the moons of Jupiter, watching their mother die from afar. The history of our first world is being digitized into archives to be kept for eternity. But the universe is not done with its challenges for the children of Earth. A nearby white dwarf in the T-Pixity system is gaining mass, preparing for its final act. When it explodes, the gamma rays will be like 1,000 solar flares hitting us at once. Our defense systems, powered by entire stars, prepare to shield our new homes. We have survived the fire of volcanoes and the ice of ages. We will survive the radiation of the stars as well. But as we look deeper into the future, we see a threat that even a Type 3 civilization cannot ignore. Beyond the ash and the ice, something far larger is moving through the darkness toward our home. The shadow moving through the darkness was not a predator, but the vanguard of a galactic expansion. Thousands of years of evolution have led us to this moment of supreme cosmic mastery. We have officially reached the status of a Kardashev Type 3 civilization. Every star in the Milky Way now serves as a battery for the human collective. Our power grids now feed on black holes and the very winds of interstellar space. Distance has become irrelevant as we traverse the stars with ease. But even with the power of a galaxy, we are not invulnerable to the universe's temper. In the T-Pixity system, a white dwarf is gathering mass with lethal intent. It is a cosmic time bomb located only 3,000 light-years from our ancestral home. When this star goes supernova, the resulting radiation will ripple across the cosmos. The gamma radiation alone is stronger than 1,000 solar flares combined. This radiation has the power to decimate Earth's ozone layer in an instant. Posthumanity must deploy its most advanced defenses to survive this extinction-level event. We are no longer the frail creatures that once hid in caves. 10 million years have passed since the age of modern humans. The genetic chain remains, but the form is completely unrecognizable. We have become machine-human hybrids, transcending biological limitations. While we expand into the galaxy, the solar system continues its slow transformation. In 50 million years, Mars will claim its moon in a violent embrace. The moon will crumble, forming a faint, glittering ring around the red planet. Back on Earth, the very ground beneath our feet is moving toward a new collision. A new mountain range will rise, high enough to rival the mighty Himalayas. But the true danger still looms in the deep black of the Sagittarius constellation. This hypernova threat is a ticking clock for all life in its path. To survive, we have learned to deflect the very asteroids that once killed the dinosaurs. Every continent is now drifting toward a reverse Pangea. Pangea Proxima is forming, a supercontinent surrounded by a single global ocean. This new world is a land of extremes, from mega monsoons to hyper-hurricanes. In the distance, Saturn is slowly losing its iconic, glittering rings. Time is running out as the sun begins to emit more energy than ever before. The heat will soon interrupt the carbon cycle and end photosynthesis forever. Oxygen levels will drop and the world of breathing creatures will vanish. But posthumanity has already secured its future beyond this dying rock. We are now a truly multiplanetary and multigalactic species. We have learned to move planets into safer orbits to escape the growing heat. Our power grids now span the entire Milky Way, a network of billions of stars. Yet, even the galaxy itself is on a collision course with its neighbors. 2.5 billion years from now, the Milky Way will collide with the Large Magellanic Cloud. This is only the beginning of a larger, more violent cosmic dance. As the galaxies merge, our sun begins its final, terrifying expansion. The deep, rhythmic pulsing of the sun signals the beginning of the inevitable end. Hydrogen reserves in the core have finally depleted, triggering a violent gravitational collapse. In response, the outer atmosphere of our star begins to swell outward with terrifying speed. Mercury is the first to feel the touch of the expanding solar furnace. The planet's iron surface turns to liquid as the heat becomes unimaginable. Within a cosmic heartbeat, the sun's photosphere swallows Mercury whole. Venus follows shortly after, its thick atmosphere stripped away by the solar wind. The golden clouds of the sister planet vanish, revealing a world of glowing magma. Drag from the solar gas causes the planet's orbit to decay rapidly. Venus disappears into the crimson abyss, leaving only Earth to face the fire. On the distant Earth, the sky has turned a permanent, bruised purple. The oceans have long since boiled away, leaving behind vast salt flats. The ruins of ancient cities stand as silent monuments to a forgotten biological era. High above the atmosphere, the last remnants of humanity observe the scene. They are no longer flesh and blood, but entities of pure information and light. They record the final moments of their home world with profound respect. The sun now fills half the sky, its gravity pulling at the very crust of the Earth. Mountains crumble and the atmosphere begins to ignite under the pressure. Earth is pulled into the outer layers of the red giant's corona. For a few centuries, the planet survives as a scorched cinder inside the star. Eventually, the friction of the solar gas wins and the Earth breaks apart. Every atom of human history is scattered into the sun's burning heart. The solar system is now a much smaller place, dominated by a single bloated eye. But the story of humanity does not end with the death of its sun. The Ark engages its transdimensional engines, preparing for a journey to the galactic core. We have spent 5 billion years preparing for this departure. The memories of oceans, forests, and blue skies are stored in the digital collective. Humanity is no longer a planetary species, but a cosmic one. Behind them, the red giant sun begins its final shed of its outer layers. A beautiful, glowing nebula forms around the cooling core of the star. What remains at the center is a white dwarf, a dense diamond in the dark. This cold remnant will shine for trillions of years, a ghost of our origin. In other parts of the galaxy, new stars are being born from the dust of the old. Humanity now guides the birth of these stars, ensuring the cycle of life continues. We have mastered the laws of physics that once threatened to destroy us. We carry the spirit of the first explorers who looked at the moon and wondered. Time is no longer an enemy, but a canvas upon which we write our destiny. The solar system may be gone, but the legacy of Earth is eternal. We have survived the 5 billion year journey and found our place among the gods. Our journey continues into the infinite, forever moving toward the light.